The salt air hit my face as I bent down to pick up another sand dollar. Nearly perfect, just a small chip on one edge. I added it to my collection basket and continued walking along the shoreline of my Laguna Beach property, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my cousin Lisa. Uncle Dennis is at it again. Says he's handling the beach house situation, whatever that means. I smiled slightly and pocketed the phone. Let him handle it. I'd learned years ago that sometimes the best response to family drama was silence and preparation. Uncle Dennis had been trying to get his hands on this property since my grandmother left it to me 5 years ago. The house behind me stood 3 stories tall, weathered blue shingles and white trim, worth approximately $4 million in today's market. My grandmother had purchased it in 1987 for $320,000. Back when Laguna Beach was still affordable for middle-class families. She'd worked as a teacher for 35 years, saving every spare dollar, investing wisely in blue-chip stocks during the 90s boom. When she died, she'd left the property solely to me, not to her son Dennis, not split among the grandchildren, just me. Her will had been crystal clear, executed by one of Orange County's most respected estate attorneys. Uncle Dennis had contested it, of course, spent 18 months and roughly $60,000 in legal fees trying to prove undue influence, diminished capacity, fraud. The probate judge had dismissed every claim. The will stood, but Uncle Dennis wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. "You don't even live there full time," he'd complained at last year's Thanksgiving dinner. "It's a waste. I could turn it into something profitable." I'd simply passed him the sweet potatoes and changed the subject. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my younger brother Marcus. "Just got a weird call from some bank. They were asking about the Laguna property. Said Dennis listed you as a co-owner. Call me." I stopped walking. Co-owner. Now that was bold, even for Uncle Dennis. I pulled up my email and scrolled through the unread messages. There, buried beneath promotional emails and newsletters, was a message from Pacific Coast Bank, received 4 days ago. Subject line: mortgage application, property documentation required. I opened it. "Dear Miss Parker, we are processing a commercial mortgage application for the property located at 847 Ocean Vista Drive, Laguna Beach, California. Our records show you as a listed owner. Please review the attached documents and contact our office within 48 hours to verify." The attachment was a mortgage application for $2 million. Applicant Dennis Morrison. Property address: my grandmother's beach house. My beach house. I sat down on a piece of driftwood and read through the entire application. Dennis had listed himself as co-owner and property manager. He'd included tax records showing the property address, public information, easily obtained. He'd included utility bills in his name, which made sense, since I'd foolishly allowed him to handle some maintenance issues last year, and he'd switched the accounts to his name for simplicity. He'd even included photographs of himself standing in front of the property, keys in hand, smiling like he owned the place. What he hadn't included was any actual deed, any title documentation, any proof of ownership beyond his own claims. I dialed the number listed on the email. A cheerful woman answered on the second ring. "Pacific Coast Bank, commercial lending. This is Jennifer speaking." "Hi Jennifer, this is Sarah Parker. I received an email about a mortgage application for 847 Ocean Vista Drive." "Oh yes, Miss Parker. Thank you so much for calling back. We just need you to verify a few details and sign off on the application. Mr. Morrison mentioned you've been out of the country, so we've been trying to reach you." Out of the country. I'd been in Los Angeles, 45 miles away, going to work every day at the architectural firm where I'd been employed for the past 6 years. "I haven't been out of the country," I said calmly, "and I'm the sole owner of that property. Not a co-owner, the sole owner." There was a pause. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" "The property at 847 Ocean Vista Drive is held in my name alone. Dennis Morrison has no ownership stake whatsoever. He's my uncle, and he's apparently attempting to commit mortgage fraud." Another pause, longer this time. "Miss Parker, I'm going to transfer you to our senior loan officer. Please hold." Elevator music filled my ear. I watched the waves crash against the rocks while I waited. A group of surfers bobbed in the distance, waiting for the perfect set. "Miss Parker, this is Robert Chen, Senior Commercial Loan Officer. I understand there's some confusion about the Ocean Vista property." "No confusion on my end," I said. "I own the property outright, held in an irrevocable trust established by my grandmother's estate. Dennis Morrison is not a co-owner, not a partial owner, not authorized to mortgage the property in any capacity. I see, and you have documentation to support this. Extensive documentation, the original trust documents, the probate court ruling, the recorded deed, title insurance, everything. I can have my attorney send it over within the hour. Robert Chen's voice shifted from friendly to professional. That would be appreciated. Miss Parker, I need to inform you that we've already approved this application in principle. We're scheduled to close on Wednesday, 3 days from now. Based on what documentation? I asked. Mr. Morrison provided what appeared to be legitimate property records, tax statements, and he's been making all the property tax payments for the past 18 months according to our verification, because I'd let him. Because when he'd offered to help with the property management, to take some burden off my shoulders, I'd stupidly agreed to let him handle the county tax payments. I'd been reimbursing him quarterly. I had every check, every receipt, every email confirming the reimbursement. I'd thought I was being nice to family. Mr. Chen, I'm going to have my attorney David Kowalski at Kowalski and Partners contact you immediately. In the meantime, I strongly suggest you halt all proceedings on this application. We'll certainly look into this, Miss Parker. But I should mention that Mr. Morrison has already paid substantial fees, and if this turns out to be a misunderstanding, it's not a misunderstanding, it's fraud, and if your bank closes on this mortgage, you'll be financing a criminal act. I hung up and immediately dialed David Kowalski. He'd been my grandmother's attorney, had handled her estate, and had remained on retainer for me specifically, to manage the trust that held the beach house. David answered on the first ring. Sarah, I was just about to call you. You heard. Pacific Coast Bank's legal department contacted me 20 minutes ago. They wanted to verify the trust documents. I've already sent them everything, the original trust agreement, the certificate of trust, the deed showing the trust as sole owner, your position as trustee. I also sent the probate court ruling, and a very strongly worded letter, explaining that any mortgage executed without your consent would be void and potentially criminal. Wednesday, David. They were going to close on Wednesday. Not anymore. I spoke with their chief counsel. The application is frozen pending a full title review. Dennis won't get $1. I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. What's my next move? Document everything. Every interaction with Dennis about the property. Every email, text, payment receipt. I'm going to send him a cease and desist letter today. And I'd recommend you consider filing a police report for attempted fraud. Will that go anywhere? Honestly, maybe, maybe not. He could claim it was a misunderstanding, that he believed he had ownership rights, but it creates a paper trail, and if he tries this again, we'll have documented his pattern of behavior. I thanked David and hung up. The sun had nearly set, the sky now deep purple streaked with gold. I should have felt relieved. The mortgage was blocked, the property was safe. David had handled it with his usual efficiency, but I felt something else. Anger, yes, but more than that, a deep exhausted sadness that family could do this, that my own uncle, my grandmother's son, would forge documents and lie to banks to steal property that had been explicitly left to someone else. My phone rang. Uncle Dennis. I let it go to voicemail. He called again, then again. On the fourth call I answered. Sarah, finally. Listen, there's been a huge misunderstanding with the bank. There's no misunderstanding, Uncle Dennis. You applied for a $2 million mortgage on property you don't own. That's called fraud. Now wait just a minute. Your grandmother would have wanted the family to benefit from that property, not just you sitting on it. Grandma left it to me, in a legally binding will that you already tried to overturn in court and lost. She made her wishes very clear. You don't even use the place. It sits empty 11 months a year, while you work your little architecture job in LA. I could have turned it into a rental property, generated income, actually made use of the asset, with $2 million of debt attached to it. This wasn't about generating income, Dennis. This was about you taking out a massive loan using my property as collateral. Our property, family property, my property, legally, ethically, morally mine. And you know it. There was a long silence. When Dennis spoke again, his voice had changed. Harder, meaner. You always were her favorite. Perfect little Sarah, could do no wrong. Never mind that I'm her actual son. Never mind that I spent 20 years taking care of her while you were off at college at your fancy job. But sure, give everything to the granddaughter who visited twice a year. I visited every Sunday for 5 years when she was sick. I sat with her during chemo. I held her hand when she died. You were in Vegas that weekend, if I remember correctly. One weekend. I missed one weekend. You missed a lot more than that, and we both know it. But that's not the point. The point is that Grandma made her choice. The court upheld it, and you need to accept it. I'll never accept it. That property should be mine. Then you'll be disappointed for the rest of your life. Stay away from my house, Dennis. Stay away from my property. If you step foot on it again, without my permission, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. If you forge any more documents, I'll press charges. We're done. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat on the beach as the last light faded and the stars began to appear. Tuesday morning, I drove to David's office in Newport Beach. He had his secretary bring coffee and spread the documents across his conference table. The bank is conducting a full investigation, David said. They're looking at their loan officer's procedures, how the application got as far as it did without proper title verification. Will there be consequences? For Dennis, the bank could press charges. Whether they will depends on their legal department's risk assessment. They might decide it's not worth the publicity. David pulled out another folder. But I found something interesting when I was reviewing the trust documents. He slid a paper across to me. It was the original trust agreement, the one my grandmother had established 3 months before she died. I'd read it before, but David pointed to a specific clause I'd overlooked. Section 7.3, Trust Protector Provisions. Your grandmother included a trust protector clause. Essentially, she appointed an independent third party to oversee the trust and ensure it's being administered according to her wishes. That protector has the authority to remove and replace trustees, modify certain administrative provisions, and take legal action against anyone who attempts to fraudulently claim trust assets. Who's the trust protector? Alan Hirsch. He was your grandmother's financial advisor for 30 years. I called him yesterday to give him a heads up about Dennis's mortgage application. He's furious. Is there anything he can do? Actually, yes. As trust protector, he has standing to file a civil suit against Dennis for attempted conversion of trust property. We could seek damages, legal fees, potentially even punitive damages if we can prove malicious intent. I thought about it. More lawsuits, more family warfare, more years of Dennis claiming victimhood at every holiday gathering. Let me think about it, I said. David nodded. Take your time. But Sarah, I want you to understand something. Your grandmother didn't just leave you this property, she protected it. The irrevocable trust, the trust protector clause, the specific language excluding Dennis from any claims. She knew he'd try something like this. She built walls around this asset to keep it safe for you. I felt tears prick my eyes. Grandma had known. She'd seen her son's nature clearly, loved him anyway, but refused to enable his worst impulses. Did she tell you why she set it up this way? David smiled sadly. She said, Dennis makes bad choices. He always has. I love him, but I won't give him the opportunity to destroy what I've built. Sarah has a good head on her shoulders. She'll preserve it, maybe pass it down to her own kids someday. That's what I want. Wednesday afternoon, I received a call from Robert Chen at Pacific Coast Bank. Miss Parker, I wanted to update you personally. The mortgage application has been formally denied. We've also terminated our relationship with Mr. Morrison and flagged his social security number in our fraud prevention system. Are you pressing charges? That's still under discussion with our legal team, but I want to apologize for how far this application proceeded. We had multiple failures in our verification process. If you'd like to file a complaint with the OCC, I'll think about it. Thank you for letting me know. One more thing. During our investigation, we discovered that Mr. Morrison had contacted 3 other banks with similar applications over the past 6 months. None of them processed as far as ours did, but it shows a pattern of behavior. 3 other banks, 6 months of trying to steal my property. Thank you for that information, I said quietly. After I hung up, I sat in my office staring at the architectural drawings on my desk. I was working on a community center design, a project I loved. Clean lines, sustainable materials, spaces designed for people to gather and connect. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dennis says you're trying to put him in jail. He's very upset. Can we talk about this like family? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. He tried to steal my house by committing bank fraud. There's nothing to talk about. She responded immediately. He made a mistake. He's family. We forgive family. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting him keep trying to rob me. I've made my position clear. You're tearing this family apart. I put the phone down and didn't respond. My mother had always enabled Dennis, made excuses for his failures, blamed everyone else for his problems. It was exhausting. Thursday morning, I drove down to Laguna Beach. I needed to see the property, to walk through it, to remind myself why this mattered. The house was exactly as I'd left it 3 weeks ago. I'd hired a property management company to handle basic maintenance, lawn care, pool cleaning, minor repairs. They'd been doing an excellent job. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. My grandmother's furniture was still here. I'd kept most of it, unable to part with the physical remnants of her presence. I walked through each room, remembering. The kitchen where she'd taught me to make her famous lemon bars. The living room where we'd watched old movies on rainy afternoons. The master bedroom where she'd spent her final months. Too weak to go downstairs, but insisting on keeping the curtains open so she could see the ocean. "Promise me you'll keep it," she'd whispered one afternoon, her voice barely audible. "Don't let Dennis or anyone else pressure you to sell it. This is yours, your anchor, your inheritance." "I promise, Grandma. He'll try. You know he'll try, but you're stronger than him, smarter. You have David, you have the trust protections. Don't let anyone take this from you." I'd held her hand, and promised. And I'd kept that promise, even when it meant standing alone against my entire family. I walked out onto the back deck. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, waves rolling in with perfect regularity. A pod of dolphins swam past, their fins cutting through the water. My phone rang. "David, Sarah, I just got a very interesting call. Dennis's attorney contacted me." Dennis has an attorney. Apparently he hired someone after the bank denied the mortgage. "They're claiming that you've been unjustly enriched by the property, that Dennis has a moral claim based on his status as your grandmother's son, and they're threatening to file suit." "On what grounds?" "He already lost in probate court. Undue influence." "Again, they're claiming new evidence." I laughed, actually laughed. What new evidence could they possibly have? "They won't say. My guess, they have nothing. This is a pressure tactic. They're hoping you'll agree to some kind of settlement just to make them go away." "What do you recommend?" "Call their bluff. Let them file suit if they want. It'll get thrown out just like the last one did, and this time we can potentially pursue sanctions for filing a frivolous lawsuit." "Do it." 3 weeks later, Dennis's attorney filed suit. David was right. It was the same undue influence claim with zero new evidence, just recycled arguments from the original probate case. The family pressure intensified. My mother called daily. My aunt left tearful voicemails about family unity. Even my cousins started weighing in, some supporting Dennis, others carefully neutral, none supporting me outright. "Just give him something," my mother pleaded. "Sell the house and split it with him. End this nightmare." "No, Sarah, please. He's desperate. He's talking about bankruptcy, about losing everything, because he made bad investments, because he overspent, because he gambled. None of that is my responsibility, Mom. He's family, so am I. And Grandma left the property to me. Why doesn't that matter to you? Why is Dennis's financial irresponsibility more important than respecting Grandma's explicit wishes?" She had no answer for that. The lawsuit dragged on for 4 months. Discovery, depositions, motions. Dennis claimed my grandmother had been mentally incompetent when she created the trust. The probate court records proved otherwise. She'd undergone a complete psychiatric evaluation specifically to establish capacity. Dennis claimed I'd isolated my grandmother from the family. I had emails, photos, visitor logs from the hospice facility, showing dozens of family members visiting regularly, including Dennis himself. Dennis claimed the property was worth far less than appraised value, and that I'd manipulated the trust to exclude him from his rightful inheritance. The current property tax assessment showed a value of $4.2 million, and the trust documents made no mention of Dennis at all. You can't exclude someone who was never included. Every claim fell apart under scrutiny. In month 5, the judge scheduled a summary judgment hearing. David was confident. "They have no case," he told me the day before the hearing. "No evidence, no legal theory that holds water, nothing but Dennis's belief that he deserves something he was never entitled to." The hearing lasted 45 minutes. The judge reviewed the documents, listened to brief arguments from both sides, and ruled from the bench. "Mr. Morrison's claims are without merit. The previous probate court ruling is res judicata, already decided. There is no new evidence presented here that would warrant revisiting that decision. The trust documents are clear, properly executed, and beyond dispute. Summary judgment is granted in favor of the defendant. Case dismissed. The judge paused, looking directly at Dennis's attorney. Additionally, the court finds this lawsuit to be frivolous and brought in bad faith. The defendant is awarded attorney's fees and costs. Mr. Morrison's counsel, I strongly suggest you advise your client that any further litigation on this matter may result in sanctions. David and I walked out of the courthouse into the bright Orange County sunshine. It's over, David said. Truly over this time, until he tries something else. If he tries something else, we'll have this ruling to point to, and next time there will be sanctions. He knows that now. 2 weeks later, I received a check from Dennis for $47,000. David's legal fees and costs. It must have devastated him financially. Part of me felt bad, part of me didn't. My mother called that evening. Are you happy now? He had to liquidate his retirement account to pay your lawyers. He chose to file a baseless lawsuit, Mom. Actions have consequences. You've destroyed him. No, he tried to destroy himself by stealing property that wasn't his. I just protected what's mine. She hung up on me. 6 months passed. The family stopped calling. I heard through my brother Marcus that Dennis and my mother were no longer speaking to me, had written me out of the family narrative, told everyone who would listen that I'd stolen their inheritance through manipulation and legal tricks. I didn't correct the record. People who wanted to believe the truth had access to the court documents. People who wanted to believe Dennis would believe him regardless of evidence. I started spending more time at the beach house. Weekends at first, then long weekends. Eventually working remotely 2 days a week so I could stay down in Laguna Beach. I began to understand what my grandmother had seen in this place. Not just the monetary value, though that was substantial, but the peace, the rhythm of the waves, the way the light changed throughout the day, the sense of permanence in a constantly changing world. I hired a local architect to help me make some updates. Nothing major, just modernizing the kitchen, updating the bathrooms, refinishing the deck, preserving the character while improving the function. One Saturday afternoon, I was sitting on the deck when a car pulled into the driveway. I tensed, then relaxed when I recognized Marcus getting out. Surprise visit, I called down. Wanted to see how you're doing. He climbed the stairs and sat in the chair next to me. This place looks great, thanks. I'm actually thinking about renting out the bottom floor as a vacation rental. Generate some income, offset the property taxes. That's smart. He was quiet for a moment. Mom and Dennis are still not talking to you. I know. It bothers you, sometimes. But I made the right choice, Marcus. Grandma left this to me. She knew what she was doing. I know she did. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. I found this in some of Mom's old boxes. It's a letter Grandma wrote to you. I think she meant to give it to you before she died, but ran out of time. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. The handwriting was shaky. She must have written this in her final weeks, but unmistakably my grandmother's. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I imagine Dennis has made things difficult for you. I'm sorry for that. I raised him the best I could, but some patterns run too deep to break. I'm leaving you the beach house because I trust you to preserve it, not exploit it, to cherish it, not sell it, to understand that some things have value beyond their price tag. Dennis will never understand that. He sees the world in terms of what he can take, what he deserves, what he's owed. I love him, but I won't enable his worst impulses. You, my dear, see the world differently. You build things, you create beauty. You understand that real wealth isn't about having more, it's about appreciating what you have. The house is yours. Don't let anyone take it from you. Not Dennis, not the rest of the family, not even your own doubts. Stand firm. You're stronger than you know. All my love, Grandma. I wiped tears from my face. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. She knew, I whispered. She always knew, about all of us. We sat together in silence, watching the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, the waves rolling in forever, the house standing solid behind us. Uncle Dennis had tried to take it with lies and forgery. He tried to take it with lawsuits and family pressure. He tried to take it with guilt and manipulation, but the house was still mine. Protected by legal documents, yes, but more than that, protected by my grandmother's wisdom, by her foresight. by her absolute clarity about what mattered. The senior underwriter at Pacific Coast Bank had discovered the irrevocable trust documents just in time. David had reinforced the legal protections. The judge had dismissed Dennis's fraudulent claims, but ultimately I'd protected it myself, by standing firm, by refusing to compromise on principle, by understanding that family love doesn't mean letting yourself be victimized. My phone buzzed, an email from the property management company, 3 inquiries about renting the lower floor for the upcoming summer season. I smiled and started typing responses. The beach house would generate income. It would provide beautiful vacation memories for families, and it would remain mine, preserved and cherished, exactly as my grandmother had intended. The waves crashed against the shore, the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, and I sat on the deck of my beach house, truly legally irrevocably mine, and felt at peace.